Welcome back, campers. I'm Jersh.
And I'm Mears.
And we are the Modern Campfire Crew, huddled around our computers to talk all things movies. In this episode, we are going to review the Roadhouse remake starring Jake Gyllenhaal that is available on Amazon Prime streaming. We're not going to do a spoiler-free section and then a spoiler-filled review. We're just going to talk about the movie at will. So full spoiler warning right now. You've been warned. It's a remake of a 40-year-old movie. I feel like it's pretty well-worn territory and well-known. So, we're going to talk about Roadhouse. We're going to speak freely and not really care about spoiling it. So full disclosure, Mears and I had a brief conversation offline, off camera, about this movie, and at the time had decided not to even record a review for it, but because the movie stole time from my life, I figured I should try to earn some YouTube views from it, and we ultimately decided we'll just talk about it for the 10 people who care. So, Mears, let me ask you this. What is your familiarity with the original Roadhouse? And then what did you think of this movie?
Okay, so I've never seen the original, but it is my grandfather's favorite movie. Whenever
All right.
whenever he got, and knowing him, you wouldn't expect it. Whenever he got a DVD player, that was the first thing he got. That was the first DVD he got, and I honestly don't know if he's ever actually watched it on DVD. I don't think he knows how to use it. But that's his favorite movie. Every time it comes on TV, he's sat there watching the whole thing. But yeah, I've never seen it. But I kind of knew briefly what it was about. I knew Patrick Swayze was in it. I knew that there was some kind of a scuffle. But that was basically it. I didn't even know, like the UFC stuff.
Okay.
Which I assume that's also something in the first one. I don't know. But anyway, and then so I was excited to watch this one. I love Jake Gyllenhaal. And I think he's like one of the greatest actors in like the past, 20, 30 years. And
yeah, I guess 2001 or 2002 was I think his okay. So
Donnie
I guess his
Darko
real
was like what, 99?
2000.
Okay.
But he was a child actor as well. He had like a small bit parts when he was a kid. And then he had his breakout role in October Sky.
Right.
And then Donnie Darko. But yeah, so 20-ish years, 25 years exactly. Long time making some good movies.
Mm-hmm. Until this movie. I did not like it. I found myself laughing throughout, and not because it was funny, but because it was so bad that I could not believe some of the things I was seeing. And I think it's an utter shame that it was even made. I feel like Roadhouse is it's a classic like Swayze movie, and I feel like it's besmirched his memory. And this goes towards the idea that classics don't need to be remade. Not every movie needs to be remade that's 30, 40 years old. And so this might be the most concrete evidence of that. But yeah, did not like it. Had a hard time finishing it. I had to stop it for a little bit, and I really didn't want to come back to it. I didn't care. I didn't care what happened to anybody in the movie. Bad.
Bad. So yeah, I will get into more specifics on what you didn't like about it in a moment.
Yeah.
So I'll share. I have seen Roadhouse before. It's been a really long time. It had been a really long time. I watched it years ago, so I was familiar with the premise. I pretty much knew, the setup, and I basically remembered the setup. I did not remember where it went. Like everybody who's seen Roadhouse or knows Roadhouse knows Patrick Swayze and bar fights. You don't really remember the totality of the plot and where things go and escalate and things like that. So I had to remind myself and look up some summaries to try to remind myself of the original without sitting down and watching it all the way. I will say, yeah, the UFC stuff is brand new. That's to contemporize and modernize it. Like, oh, here's, you know, a Batman Begins explanation of how this fighter is so good. And, because I feel like in the original with Patrick Swayze, it's just like he's just a badass. There is no explanation. There's no like plugging into the Matrix to learn Kung Fu. There's no UFC fighting background. He's just kind of this unassuming guy. And if you don't know anything about Roadhouse, you're genuinely surprised when he starts beating the shit out of everybody, because for the first 20 or 30 minutes, he's just kind of arms crossed, looking at the bar and taking everything in, and he's just a nice guy. And, let's just make sure we be nice to each other. Let's all be nice to each other. And then somebody gets out of line and he just fucking beats it. You're like, what? Anyway, I fucking hate this movie. I hate this movie. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. I was angry watching it. I was angry after the fact, and I was so goddamn angry that I didn't want to review it. But as I said, after I calmed down and got some advice from manatees to just go ahead and review the bad movies too, because over on the music podcast, we review albums we don't necessarily like. And, I guess for me, like, with this Modern Campfire business and this movie talk business, I really want it to be a positive thing. I don't want to just shit on movies, for shit's sake or whatever. But at the same time, I do want to be honest. And I guess if we do take the time to watch a movie, we should take a time to share our thoughts about the movie. I was so resentful for the hours of my life taken from this movie that I resented the idea of putting more time and effort into even fucking talking about it and building the thumbnail and all these things. I'm just like, I don't want to fucking think or hear or say anything about Roadhouse for the rest of my goddamn life. The acting is terrible. The script is terrible. The cinematography is terrible. The music is awful. The villains are so cookie cutter generic bullshit, it's fucking laughable. And the tone that they're trying to go for, like, is it silly? Is it serious? Is it self-aware? It's not. It's literally fucking everywhere. It doesn't know what it wants to be. There is no identity. Exactly. And I heard recently in another YouTube video that I watched, I don't know if it was a reaction or a review, but apparently now studios are producing or looking into producing background movies or second screen movies, where movies are like purposely generic and purposely expository because they assume you're on your smartphone and they want it to be the dumbest, most simplest experience for you because you're so distracted. And so under that context, that makes a lot of sense that this is the kind of movie that it is. Because every 5 minutes you're seeing the same thing. Oh, here's the bar, somebody gets rowdy, time to kick their ass. Here's the bar, somebody gets rowdy, time to kick their ass. Here's the bar, whatever. And then the same cutaway to the villains on a boat 10, 15 times until the end, right? And then, Conor McGregor shows up and he's fucking worthless too. Like,
the worst actor I've ever seen. I can't believe I saw that he said online that he's now receiving like all these acting gig offers. And I'm like, was I watching the same movie as everybody else? Like,
yeah.
The worst, and it was the editing with his introductory scene. And I don't know. I'm not gonna give him. I'm not even gonna say that he was cutting the guy off on the phone, because he was saying his lines like over top, like he was answering the guy before the guy finished his line. Like at that point, I was like, this movie sucks. Like, and then to have him like naked just to be something interesting, I guess, because they were like, I don't know, maybe they were like, this movie sucks and we need to add something here because his performance can't carry the scene. He needs to be he needs to be nude.
Well, and he's introduced halfway through the freaking movie.
Yeah. Worst actor. Worst. I could go on. I could rant for hours about how bad of an actor he is.
I mean, when you think about WWE wrestlers or UFC fighters or people who from the sporting world go to act, right? The Rock, John Cena, Batista, Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper. Yeah. They had movies in the 80s and 90s. It's very rare that an actor, a wrestler or a fighter is like, oh, wow, they're a really good actor. So the bar is already low. But yeah, he's the fucking worst out of all of them. Absolutely. Like, I'm hard on Batista. I don't like Batista. He makes the same squinty face in every emotion, and he delivers every fucking line exactly the same. No matter what character he's playing, no matter what movie it is. If it's Knock at the Cabin, if it's Dune, if it's fucking Guardians of the Galaxy, he's just always Dave Batista. But then when he's supposed to cry, he squints his eyes, and that's it. And that's what he does, and that's fine. But I mean, even Roddy Piper in They Live, which is personally one of my favorite science fiction films of all time. I think Roddy Piper is way fucking like amazing, almost Oscar worthy compared to this shit.
Yeah.
And I love The Rock. Here's the thing: if you can't act, you have to have charisma. The Rock has charisma. I like seeing The Rock on screen. He's not going to maybe win an Oscar, maybe later in his career, if he, continues to develop as an actor. But I enjoy seeing him. Conor McGregor didn't have acting skills or charisma. He had nothing. And he didn't even really get to showcase his fighting skills because the fights in this movie are fucking terrible. They shot
CGI.
Yeah, there's so much like CGI stitching together and 3D, knockoff Michael Bay maneuvers. And then there's these first person's perspectives where the fighters are literally looking at you. It looks dumb. It all looked dumb. It all was terrible. And I'm just thinking of like the great fighting movies that I've seen in my life of like the Rocky and Creed series. That's pretty much it, as far as fighting goes. The Fighter with Christian Bale and Mark Wahlberg is a really great movie with really visceral fights. Cinderella Man with Russell Crowe had some visceral fights. The point is, you're in a rock and a hard place because you're remaking a kind of cult classic, nostalgia film that everybody really knows really well and has certain affections for. And you're kind of in a genre where, hand-to-hand combat fight scenes have kind of been done to death. So it's like, how do I shoot this new? How do I do something different? So what they tried to do was use a lot of CGI and a lot of fancy camera maneuvers that takes you out of the fight instead of taking you into the fight. A couple more things I want to say, then I'll let you say what else you want to say. But, they shot on location for a lot of scenes, and I can tell because the ADR is some of the worst ADR I've ever heard in my life. It was the room level bad, where it was so patched in after the fact, where none of the emotion or energy in the delivery was matching what was on screen. None of the side characters I could give two shits for. You know what I mean? Like, you don't care about anybody. The love interest is like there's one scene and then they make out on a beach and now I'm supposed to care if she lives or dies. There's no investment. There's no time spent, and there's nothing that draws them together except that they're both hot. I'm glad, you know what I mean? Like,
and he's like a giddy like high school boy whenever she drops him off out of nowhere. Like, he's supposed to be this tough guy, and then he's like smiling and stuff, and then like nothing made sense in this. Like,
so the ADR is laughably bad. So you say, okay, well, I'll take that because you want to shoot on location. You want some beautiful scenery of the beach, of the ocean, of the boats, whatever. And some of that stuff is beautiful because the location was naturally beautiful. It would be a Herculean task to mess up those shots. But then when it comes to the fight scenes, it's like so obviously green screen and so obviously faked that it's like, I thought we were on location for a fucking reason. You know what I mean? What else was I going to say? Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal, first of all, how you make Jake Gyllenhaal have no charisma in a movie role is like fucking beyond me. I've loved him in basically everything I've ever seen him in. And this is just a miss. I'll still see the next Jake Gyllenhaal movie. I don't know what the deal was of this movie behind the scenes. If it was remake this IP because people know it and you will give your production company some money for this other like actual, project that you care about, because he is a passionate producer and actor and has been making small, interesting movies for over a decade now, like going back to the Nightcrawler days. Nightcrawler, great movie. But his character is so strange, where he's like soft spoken and acts like he really is concerned about them, or is there a hospital nearby? Is there, they're gonna need whatever. And then instead of punching him, he like slaps him. It's like, oh, I just slapped you. Like, what is my fucking response to that supposed to be? What am I supposed to feel?
That whole dialogue there, I had to, some of this I had to watch the scenes over again, and I kind of like was dissecting it because I was like, surely this isn't that bad. Like with like early on, like the little girl, like that's what really clued me into the ADR, because I could tell that like it wasn't lining up with her mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, maybe she just like flubbed her lines, whatever. She's a young actress. And then I started noticing other people. And then I started to see where like dialogue was weird. The script was horrible. That's what made him a bad actor, was the script.
Yeah.
And then I would rewatch and I'm like, I don't, what? Yeah, that was so weird. It was so, it's an enigma.
Yeah.
Like, it's like they tried to make it bad, Like,
see, that's what makes me hate it, is that I don't get that feeling. I think they were trying to do something,
well,
but they
yeah,
didn't know what they were trying to do. But I agree with you that it's so terrible that your mind wonders, is this on purpose?
Yeah.
Like, did I just get pranked?
Yeah.
Is this a prank movie?
I don't think it was, but it almost seems like they should come out and say, yeah, we did that on purpose to try to redeem themselves. Because I've seen people hate on it online, mostly. I hope.
I don't know. Again, I'm all for a turn off your brain movie. I'll watch a Roadhouse. I'll watch a Transformers. Whatever. You know what I mean? But this movie is so kind of incompetent from a script level and a story level and a cinematography level that it wakes your brain up from being turned off. It's like you're in survival mode. Like, what's happening? What's going on? Yeah. I'm under duress.
Yeah, it was distracting of itself. Like,
yeah. And then like what I'll say too about the Conor McGregor introduction is, finally, when the Billy Magnuson, again, generic carbon copy, nothing to offer, boring villain, when he finally starts to do something interesting and antagonize Jake Gyllenhaal at the emotional level, making him watch the footage of his UFC fight where he killed his friend, which who didn't fucking know that's exactly what it was, because of course if it is a cliche, it's in this goddamn movie. And then the whole but yeah, so like the moment that that the Billy Magnuson character started to get interesting, they just said, fuck it, bring in Conor McGregor. And then Billy Magnuson just like falls off into the background and is basically not in the movie anymore.
He's the most like what's the word? He's like the least intimidating villain I believe I've seen.
Billy Magnuson?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what scene clued me in on that. Was he was on a boat and the guy was shaving his beard and he kept like accidentally cutting him because the boat was rocking. And then he like kept telling him, you just need a loose hand, you gotta have a loose hand. And then like he just kept on like he would get mad, but he wasn't like, he didn't kill him for it. Like, I don't know, I've seen other movies where villains have killed people for less. Like, oh, you accidentally, you sent the message to the wrong guy, you're dead. Like,
yeah,
that would have made me like scared of him if he had like, okay, you're overboard. I was like, okay, you're not gonna, like, why does this scene matter then?
Right.
Because
right. Again,
don't understand it.
It's supposed to establish character, but you don't understand what the character's intentions are, what his mood is. You're like, this is playful. Am I supposed to laugh at this? But he's actually getting cut. He might kill him, but he didn't kill him. Is this an inept villain? Am I not scared for a reason? You know what I mean? And speaking of villains, like, Jake Gyllenhaal goes from easy-go-lucky, oh, I just slapped you, let me drive you to the hospital while a funny pop song plays on the radio, to literally, I'm murdering people now. You pushed me too far, and now I'm going to kill everybody. And it's like, from what? How or why? And then the bar owner, who is like, present, and honestly, she had more chemistry with Jake Gyllenhaal than the actual love interest, the
I
bar
thought so
owner.
too.
I
I
thought
thought
there was
they
gonna
were
be a
gonna get
triangle.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, here's the drama. It's gonna be, I can only save one, the bar owner or the nurse, and I'm gonna have to save one. Silly me trying to inject stakes and drama into a fucking story. But yeah, he just like goes like full bad guy, but then at the end he's like, here's a bunch of money. Now, because it's a Western and we know this is like a Western and we've said it's like a Western, it's time for me to get my Western ass out of here. And then on the last bus ride, he changes clothes. He gets on the bus in a Hawaiian shirt and he's wearing a hoodie in the next scene. Like, I don't know. I despised every second watching this movie.
Yeah.
And even complaining about it now and talking about it now, I have time away from it. I watched it almost a week ago and it's like, oh, maybe this wasn't so bad, or oh, maybe if I just, consider this, then it won't be. No, this is like storytelling, filmmaking, entertainment. It's like the greatest job in the world. It's the greatest job in the world. So when I personally see something that I think achieves greatness, I'm like emotionally invested and like, shouting from the rooftops, everybody watch this, everybody consume this, I love this. You're either going to be wildly entertained or you're going to, reflect on your own life, reflect on the lives around you. There's going to be some sort of value in it. So when I see something like this that has no value, not a single redeeming quality, it genuinely angers me. Not the least of which because I love Jake Gyllenhaal and Doug Liman has directed great fucking films in the past. The Edge of Tomorrow is like one of Tom Cruise's best fucking movies. I love that movie.
Shocked me because like I've told you, whenever the credits rolled and I saw who the director was, I immediately went on IMDb. I'm like, I have to see what this guy's done. I was expecting to see like commercials is the only thing he's ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And then to see the list, I was like Edge of Tomorrow, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Like I was shocked. It was like these movies that are like well known, did well,
good,
that are
and
good.
Yeah.
That was the most. I think that was the most shocking thing about this movie was the director.
Mm-hmm.
But I should have known because there was a little bit of a red flag with this being a Prime Video exclusive and not in theaters, and it's starring Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I've maybe seen one commercial on TV about it, and then like maybe one ad online, and it's a poorly photoshopped poster, and I kind of was like, I'm like, what? It's Jake Gyllenhaal starring in this movie that's a remake of a classic, and it's only on Prime Video, and like there's something fishy about that.
Yeah,
I should have known.
Yeah, and it is well known, and I think I had mentioned to you before. It might have even been before we watched it that the director like wrote this op-ed, kind of like put his career on the line writing this giant article about how when he heard that the movie was going to streaming, he was livid. That wasn't his deal with Amazon MGM, that it was supposed to be a theatrical release movie because in his opinion, it's the best film he's ever made and it's a crowd pleaser and people are going to lose their minds when Jake Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor face off in the final battle. And I just thinking about all of the positive, really kind things he had to say about his own work. That was just like playing on a loop after every shitty line of dialogue and shitty action sequence and shitty performance. Again, all the side characters are like, what are you doing here? What are you doing? Like, I didn't
care about a single character.
Yeah.
Ever.
Like,
I was not, everybody could have died in a bomb could have nuked the whole island and I'd be okay.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Terrible from top to bottom. Hopefully lessons were learned and both Doug Liman and Jake Gyllenhaal and everybody else involved comes back, stronger, more resolved, and more focused on what they hope to achieve with the precious, precious time and money that they receive to make a fucking studio movie with a real budget and deliver it to the world. What a goddamn atrocity. Mears, what's your score? No, did you want to say something else before we get to scores?
I was just going to say, I'm gonna be suspicious of Doug Liman from here on out. I think
It's
I'm gonna look up reviews of his movies before I watch the next one
that's
to
fair.
see, because I don't wanna waste 2 hours of my life again if it's just gonna be because I can't. If he thinks this is great, I can't trust that man anymore. You know.
Yeah,
Um.
I know we're both going to be low, but
Mhm.
I just wondering. I'm looking at the review scale right now
Yeah,
to
I've got it here
decide
too.
how many marshmallows to cook on this fire, and I'm really trying to be honest about
Yeah.
it. Was there anything positive? Gyllenhaal was ripped. Good for you. I'm happy you're pretty.
Mhm.
You're in great shape.
Mhm.
And some of the ocean scenes, in 4K looked good because we have the technology to see things clearer now. So water was clearer than it's been before.
I think the boat scene at the end was maybe the most I guess interesting
With the
scene.
water and the
Like
flooding and everything, yes. Yeah.
like when
Yeah.
that I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna get somewhere maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But then they ruined that with some dialogue and some like he's just blowing up the ship and which almost drowned her and like it didn't
Yeah.
that I don't know, man.
All right. So where are you landing?
I I think um I I'm stuck between a 1.5 and 2. Um and honestly, yeah, the reason that it would be that high would be because I like Jake Gyllenhaal so much and because he was ripped. That's basically the only positives for me. 1.5. 1.5.
Okay. I'm going to give it the 2 because it is terrible. It is terrible as stated. You were so busy asking if you could make this that you didn't stop to ask if you should. It minimally functions as defined poorly. I feel that literally is this movie to a T. Oh, we can make a Roadhouse remake. Okay, but should you? And then once they did, it's like, oh, yeah, I guess it kind of functions, but not in a good way. Not you know, like yeah. And it to me for me like maybe people are gonna be like, this is so bad it's good. That was not this for me.
Mm-mm.
I was angry. Like within the first 5 minutes, within the opening fucking scene of seeing like Post Malone with these shitty CGI punches, I was like, what the fuck am I getting myself into? Almost turned it off. Almost turned it off.
I'll tell you, I didn't notice that right off the bat, like you did. Yeah, I didn't get, I didn't notice that it was really going to be bad until we got to, when he actually got there on the island and he was talking with the little girl and her dad. But I went back and I saw the scene with Post Malone and then I realized this is really bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think I wasn't expecting that to happen, and I think I had, my rose-colored glasses on, and I was like, oh, Jake Gyllenhaal's about to come in here and like whoop up on, Post Malone.
Yeah, I was
And then
excited.
of
Like
course,
I hadn't seen the
yeah.
trailer. I uh, did not. Yeah, I did not watch the trailer. I did not watch any reviews beforehand. The day it was released, I was like, okay, let's go. 4K Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal with a real UFC fighter. I bet if anything, the fights are going to be awesome because they got a real fighter. And Jake Gyllenhaal trained this hard. And there was that big hoopla where he shot at a real UFC event. None of that fucking mattered. It sucked. It was
No,
terrible.
yeah.
Anyway, this has officially been the last moment of my existence that I'm going to spend talking about this movie.
Hmm.
Take us home.
All
And good
right.
luck. Good luck with that.
Yeah. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already.
Mhm.
And leave a comment, please. If you liked this movie at all, please let us know and try to convince us why you liked it.
I can't wait to
Maybe,
be called a
yeah,
snob I'm too, I'm too pretentious, or I couldn't really appreciate. I can't fucking wait. And honestly, that'll probably never happen because not enough people will watch this video. But if you are one of those
This will be the
people,
one that goes viral.
yeah, just like I already know, I have standards, and what a crime and what a sin to have standards in this world. My apologies. Continue with asking them to stay around.
Yeah. I mean, you can't say this isn't entertainment.
Or
If
honest.
you want honest opinions, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, comment, commend us on our opinions.
Yeah.
As always, thanks for watching. Until next time.